Good Monday morning. It's time for the Weather Desk, where we tackle today's top weather headlines from all around the world. Literally, today we are going global with numerous stories. You know, we always focus on Hampton Roads and we focus on the United States extensively, but we also look internationally, and there's a lot to go over today. My name is Craig Moeller. I'm a meteorologist at 13 News Now. Our television over-the-air broadcast region includes Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. It's an area we call Hampton Roads, and of course Northeast North Carolina and the Outer Banks. Some of you tuning in from other parts of the country or around the world might wonder where exactly we are. We're right at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, in our viewing area, about 2 million people. But when you consider the reach of 13 News Now Plus and all of our streaming platforms, that we can serve parts of the country and really globally, we have that reach as well. So let's get into what we're tackling with today's top weather headlines. We've got a severe weather wrap up from over the weekend. Lots of parts of the country dealing with some more flooding and some severe weather. There's a potential for some tornadoes later today. We'll break all that down. I also have some positive news coming out of Texas and Kerr County. We talked so much about Kerrville, the massive flooding that took place there along the Guadalupe River on July 4th. Well, we've had some really tough updates to share with you over the past couple of weeks, but now we've got more positive information to share, so we'll have that coming up in a bit. We also have a closer look at how incredibly humid it has been here in the Mid-Atlantic, and our chief meteorologist here at 13 News Now, Tim Panday, just pulled numbers from where we are so far this summer in terms of excessive humidity and compares that to summers past. And it's pretty evident that this has been a brutal summer. So we'll talk about that and a break in the pattern coming for folks in the Mid-Atlantic and for the eastern U.S. So we'll talk about where that relief is coming from. And then we're going to take a look at our tropical update. Couple areas we're watching. I'm not too concerned, but there are a couple areas we're monitoring, so you want to stay tuned for that. And then we've got some time lapse on Whipha. Okay, that's a typhoon that made landfall in China. But it's the time lapse of the clouds coming in with this thing. It's really pretty amazing. I had to go back and take a look and say, is this real? Is somebody doing something with this? And by all accounts, it's all legit. You'll see exactly what's going on. And I'll show you not only that awesome time lapse, but we'll show you what it looks like from the satellite's perspective. And then some other international happenings, from more flooding in parts of Korea and India. There was another cluster of earthquakes off the coast of Russia that triggered more tsunami warnings. So a lot going on all around the world, and we'll have it for you as we go. We're going to start off, though, taking a look at some of the rain and some of the issues going on over the weekend. You can see there were showers and very heavy rains across western parts of Virginia up into the D.C. area. Some rough weather and severe weather with more flooding issues as we go overnight and early this morning over parts of Missouri. These are heavy, slow-moving downpours. This is just an example. Now, millions of Americans from the Northeast through the Midwest, they're getting ready for more complications from this crazy weather pattern. We're talking everything from the flooding to more possibilities of tornadoes to extreme heat. Morgan Norwood has a look at the damage from over the weekend.
Millions in the Northeast and Midwest bracing for another round of dangerous storms after a flash flood emergency shut down parts of the Washington, D.C. metro area Saturday.
Get out the car! We came, the doors is locked.
Watch as bystanders race to help people trapped inside this SUV in Montgomery County, Maryland, helping the passenger out of the backseat window, quickly carrying her to safety. First responders arriving moments later, the fire engine's wake causing the vehicle to bob in the water. Rescuers carefully guiding the driver out of the vehicle into dry land. As the rain kept falling, meteorologists urging families to get to higher ground.
So this is something that you do need to take very seriously if you are in this area.
Officials say they made dozens of water rescues in the area.
We had a heck of a storm roll through Montgomery County, particularly down county area. In fact, we believe that water rose about 10 feet in 30 minutes at one point in time.
And more rounds of heavy rain are now targeting the Midwest. Parts of that region, the ground there already saturated. increasing the risk for dangerous flash flooding. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
All right, as we take a look here, it was Virginia, western parts of Virginia, that also had more flooding over the weekend. And as we zoom in here to the western part of the area, you can see this is north of Bristol. And I specifically want to talk about a little town called Dante, and you see West Dante on the map here. This is a look at the downpour that occurred in Dante over the weekend. Again, this is not too far from the Kentucky line in western Virginia. So again, you had a situation where you had swift water washing out several roads. Fortunately, there were no injuries or fatalities reported with that flooding there. But it's an example of that heavy rain creating moving water that can wash away and erode the roads, and the substrate, what's underneath the roads, can weaken. And whenever we tell you, turn around, don't drown, this is exactly what we're talking about. You don't take chances with that. All right, we're going to go ahead and broaden the view here and, again, start thinking a little bit more about the additional flood chances. Right here, you can see Hampton Roads under a level 1 threat for additional excessive rainfall or flash flooding. Most of us here in the Hampton Roads area won't see a lot of widespread heavy rain. There might be a couple of stray cells. I think there'll be a little bit more of that excessive rainfall, maybe out towards I-95 or Emporia. That's the potential. Parts of the central U.S. have parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. They have a level 2 threat there. But here again in Hampton Roads, while we have chances for stray showers and storms, it probably won't be as bad as, say, Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, I mentioned there are areas in Missouri under flood advisory and flood warnings right now. They've been dealing with heavy, slow-moving areas of rain throughout the morning. It continues to sag to the south. Right now, it's right along I-70 between St. Louis and Kansas City. Boone County, for instance, one of those areas getting hit with very heavy rain right there where the University of Missouri, my alma mater, is. And that's going to extend south towards Jefferson City and eventually farther south through southern Missouri. But this heavy stuff is out there, and there's more unsettled weather for that part of the country. All right, we're going to turn our attention down to Texas, and look at this. There's an area of low pressure spinning. You see it very clearly here with the satellite images. Not a lot of rain yet, but some more chances for wet weather. And Texas is still recovering from the deadly flooding on July 4th. And over the past weekend, first responders gave a major update on their progress. The number of people still missing has now dropped from nearly 100 to just 3. That's fantastic news. Emergency management officials say many of the people who were listed as missing have since been verified as safe. The death toll now stands at 134 people, including 37 children, and many of those children were campers at Camp Mystic. Camp Mystic wasn't the only camp devastated by the flooding. Another camp serving children with special needs is back open this morning after an Army of volunteers helped clean up damage. ABC's Lindsay Davis shows us more.
2 weeks ago, this was a disaster zone. Floodwaters from the Guadalupe River swallowed everything in their path, including the grounds of this beloved summer camp in central Texas for children with special needs. Fortunately, at the time, Camp was in between sessions when the storm hit, but it left behind a trail of destruction and uncertainty. Camp directors were concerned there was too much damage to reopen this season. They reached out to fellow Texan Cord Shiflett, who has a well-known history for helping communities when disaster strikes. He then put out a call on Facebook for help. An army of volunteers heeded that call, providing money, manpower, and machines. In just 4 days, more than 1,000 volunteers from across the country cleaned, repaired, and restored what the floodwaters tried to erase.
So many wonderful people came. Someone had driven down from Minnesota. We had a guy drive his team of people in from Georgia.
After all, many regard this place as more than a camp, but a lifeline. Today, Camp welcomed 115 new campers, all with special needs, many experiencing camp for the very first time. Tonight, proof that when a community comes together, even floodwater cannot drown hope. A remarkable recovery and a summer these campers will never forget.
Thank you.
It's It's great to see some encouraging news coming out. Of course, it's been a tremendous effort down around Kerrville, and so many folks have really stepped up to help folks in that region. We'll continue to watch it, and we'll continue to bring more updates and hopefully more positive stories out of that area. Now, as we expand the view, we're going to come back here to Virginia, and I want to talk a little bit about this weather pattern we've been dealing with. The normal high is near 90, and you take a look over the past week, and we were a little bit below and then slightly above, but in general, pretty close to average. But I got to tell you, the humidity has been tremendous. We've been dealing with unsettled weather here. You know, this pattern has been going on and on. We've had the high humidity and the rain for a long time. In fact, it has been a brutally humid first half of the summer, one of the most humid starts to the summer here in Hampton Roads on record. Our chief meteorologist, Tim Pandages, has a closer look at the numbers.
Have you found yourself saying it just feels more humid than usual this summer? Well, you're not alone, and now we've got the data to back that up. This has been one of the most humid starts to summer on record across parts of the region. And when we talk about how humid it feels, the best metric isn't relative humidity, it's dew point. Dew point tells us the temperature at which air becomes saturated and condensation forms. More importantly, it's a direct measure of how muggy or sticky it feels outside. So let's use 70 degrees as our baseline. That's the threshold where the air typically starts to feel very humid or even oppressive. Here's what we found when we looked at the first half of meteorological summer from June 1st through July 16th, a 46-day stretch. We pulled data from only long-term climate sites with at least 50 years of reliable records, and in most cases, much more than that. Now, Norfolk International Airport and Oceana Naval Air Station, both sites recorded 42 out of 46 days with dew points of 70 or higher, the most ever for that period, with records going back to the 1940s. Langley Air Force Base, with records back to the 1930s, 2025 is tied for the most humid first half of summer on record, also with 41 days at or above that 70-degree mark. How about North Carolina? Well, Elizabeth City Coast Guard Station, another long-term site, also dating to the 1940s, shows 42 days at or above 70, tying the all-time record for the first half of summer. So what's driving this extreme humidity? Well, it's a combination of factors: exceptionally warm temperatures. June was among the top 10 hottest on record, and July is trending above normal, too. Warmer than normal water temperatures in both the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic, and a persistent weather pattern. High pressure anchored offshore has been pulling in a deep tropical flow of moisture. Combine that with weak steering winds aloft and a jet stream stuck well to the northwest, and you've got a humid, stagnant tropical air mass with slow-moving storms and very little relief from cold fronts. All of this layered on top of a warming climate has made this summer feel relentlessly muggy. No pattern lasts forever, but if this trend holds through August, summer 2025 could go down as the most humid ever recorded in several parts of our region. Stay cool and comfortable, my friends. For 13 News Now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages.
Yeah, some great work there by Tim. And again, it is no surprise because, you know, just talking to people here in the Mid-Atlantic, a lot of folks have been saying, I just don't remember it being this muggy all the time. It has been incredible. And there is finally a break coming up. I'm going to make you stick around for a couple more minutes here after the tropical update, and we take a look at some of the international stuff. We're going to bring it back here, and we'll talk about a break from the high humidity. We'll let you know how long it's going to last coming up. All right, we are going to jump into the tropics now, and across most of the area, there really isn't much going on. The Gulf looks very, very clear right now. The Caribbean looks good. But out here in the central part of the Atlantic, there is an area with a 20% chance of development. So you see that here. Let's take this full for just a second because you know what? Right about this time, the Hurricane Center puts out a new update, and I'm going to check that for you. I'm going to just take a quick live look to see if they've changed up anything with that at all. That's one of the cool things about the Weather Desk. We're doing this streaming, and we've got a little bit of freedom to do that. Nope, still at 20%. So again, the Hurricane Center not changing things up with our chances of development. Now, I can tell you I did pull the models and took a look at this, and none of them were really going crazy with rapid development or anything. But in general, most of the models do carry it past the Lesser Antilles and into the Caribbean. I can show you the spaghetti plot here on this Invest. This is 94L, and here it is. You can see how the models do carry it to the northwest and then to the west. Right now, it's moving west-northwest at about 17, and it is forecast to track through the Caribbean, but it may not develop. We'll just have to see. Again, chances only about 20% over the coming week that we see more development from 94L. Aside from that, the rest of the basin is quiet right now, and that's good news. As we look over into the eastern Pacific, we're pretty quiet, but this little cluster here has about a 10% chance of development. We'll keep an eye to it. You can see Hawaii there, a good distance away from that area, and it's not forecast to strengthen, but we will be watching. Now, normally we stop in the eastern Pacific, and maybe we talk about something if there's any threats to Hawaii. But you'll notice we kept going westward, and you come over here to the other side of the Pacific. You see Japan, you see Korea, and here is China. And I want to talk to you about an area right here that has come in. This is Typhoon Whippa, all right? And as we take a look at Whippa, I'll go ahead and identify this area right here. It was making its landfall. Now, take a look at this time lapse. It is amazing. We've got this massive dark cloud rolling in over the coastal southern city here in China, and we're going to continue to watch, as you can see again, that time lapse capturing the approach of this. Again, it's pretty amazing to see that. And as it moves in, again, some rain coming in with that. Again, it almost looks like something that's like doctored, but keep in mind this is time lapse, so that's why you see kind of the fingers or those areas of rain kind of pouring down over the city as it moves in. Really, really cool. We thought we would share that with you as Typhoon Whippa comes into the southern part of China. All right, we're going to turn our attention here to Korea because flooding has been impacting this country as well. South Korea, you take a look at the aftermath from some heavy rains, days of torrential rain, and it triggered a mudslide there over the weekend. More than 4,000 residents were forced to evacuate from the flooding rains, and since the rain started falling, parts of South Korea have gotten 24 to 31 inches of rain in less than a week. So far, at least 18 people have died and 9 others are still missing. Okay, we can go from Korea over to India. Again, more flooding there. Take a look. This is a look at the aftermath of a monsoon in the northern part of the country. The rain placed several cities underwater. Thousands of residents have been without power for days, and now it's unclear when the lights could come back on. So many problem areas. You know, sometimes we focus obviously so much on the U.S., but other parts of the world also dealing with weather issues. Now we're going to turn our attention from the weather to earthquake activity and bring you back up off of the coast of Russia here. Now here are the Aleutian Islands, and you can see Alaska just off. It's kind of covered up by the little kind of, template here showing you the timing on these storms. But I do want to zoom in, I said storms, earthquakes, to this area. And there was one earthquake here within the last hour. You can see all of this activity off of the Russian coastline. And as we take a look, we just had that latest one, magnitude 4.5 at a depth of about 6 miles. Now, this series of earthquake, it triggered tsunami warnings over the weekend. The U.S. Geological Survey says at least 5 quakes were recorded, and that was over the weekend, that were larger, and the largest of those was at 7.4. Look at this video showing a home shaking during that earthquake. There were several businesses damaged, but no injuries have been reported, and the tsunami warning was also lifted. But you can see there were like 5 major ones and a whole bunch of little ones around that area. So pretty wild to see some of that earthquake activity. And of course, we always monitor the entire world for large earthquake and earthquake activity. All right, we're going to bring it back to the United States and talk about how the weather is shaping up and the potential for strong to severe storms. Level 2 across the north central U.S., across Big Sky country. You can see Montana there into North Dakota and South Dakota, that area with a level 2 threat. It's going to be quieter along the East Coast in terms of severe weather. There could still be a few heavier cells with some potential excessive rainfall, but the actual severe weather threat is really pretty much confined to the north central U.S. I do want to focus in on this level 2 area. It includes areas just north of Billings, Montana to Miles City. You can see out through Bismarck and up towards Minot in North Dakota there. So that's the area most likely to see the stronger storms. Now, the primary threat's going to be strong winds, but there is a little sliver, a little area that could see a slightly enhanced risk of isolated tornadoes. And again, this is from western Minnesota, right along the state line between North and South Dakota, and then back through southeastern Montana. So that's the area. Slightly elevated for tornadoes. There could also be some hail in this area as well. You can see Billings is included in that elevated risk, and so is Bismarck. So a couple of the cities up that way. Larger hail, also a slightly elevated risk of that, although there could be some hail back across western Nebraska and down into northern Kansas. As we look ahead to Tuesday, that severe weather area shifts a little farther to the east, level 2 across central Minnesota, so it'll be this area, and that extends out through Fargo and around Minneapolis, St. Paul. They're looking at that threat of stronger storms. Again, gusty winds a primary issue, and maybe some large hail there as well. Here in Hampton Roads, it is a much more peaceful picture right now. You can see the skies are mainly clear as we check out the sky view. This is a Thompson Creek Window Company sky view, and it does look pretty good. At times we've seen more clouds right now, more sunshine, but that heat is starting to build, and I want to get back to that temperature and the dew point. So 84, that's our current temperature. The dew point's at 75. Remember, when you get dew points up into the 70s, the air mass starts to feel pretty tropical. That's where we've been. That's where we are right now, but it's going to change later tonight. The reason for that, a cold front's coming through, and that front has a slight chance of producing a shower or storm around the beaches, only about 20%. Generally today, we should see a mix of clouds and sunshine. The rip current threat is low, and the UV index is very high. On the water today, it looks pretty good, but I do want you to stay alert in case there is a shower or thunderstorm that tries to pop up. That would change conditions. Generally, we're looking at north to northeast winds on the bay, 10 to 15. A little gustier with that front coming through there. The waters east of Virginia Beach, north to northeast winds, 5 to 15 knots, and the seas 2 to 3 feet. We've got our low tide coming up at 12:30 this afternoon. Right now, the clouds are off to the north. Again, we've got a frontal boundary up there dropping through the region. As we get into the mid to late afternoon, there'll be chances for a few isolated cells to pop up. Again, a shower here, maybe an isolated storm. You see this heavier activity out west. This is likely to dive to the south and stay to the southwest of our area as that front rides down through the area. That's just going to kind of ride through right along that front. Some heavier rain down in this area. This would be where it would be more likely to see a little bit of that excessive rainfall, maybe a little bit of runoff there. Spotty showers and some heavier downpours a little closer to the Hampton Roads area, but I really don't think we're going to see a lot here. Maybe a stray shower or an isolated storm, but many parts of the region won't get much, and it should be a pretty good afternoon. It does turn cooler through the overnight and less humid. Drier air comes in, setting up what will be a fantastic Tuesday and a wonderful Wednesday as well. Lots of sunshine, temperatures more comfortable in the mid-80s, and the dew point's lower, so that lower humidity, we're really going to notice it when you step outside over the next couple of days. By Thursday, we start to warm it back up. Now, the rainfall amounts heavier down to the southwest, little spotty areas. We could pick up maybe 1/10 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch if you get hit with one of those heavier cells. But most areas probably won't see that much until you get off to the south and to the southwest. Grass pollen is high today. It's been moderate for a long time, but we did get a higher reading today, and I wanted to share that with you. Temperatures today around 88. Chance for a shower or storm. You can see it just about anywhere, but the better chances are going to be a little farther to the west, I think. Up around Williamsburg, upper 80s through Hampton, about the same. Mid 80s for Matthews, 86 at Cape Charles, 85 at Melfa. Gloucester also around 86 degrees, and we'll be close to that down around Kill Devil Hills, maybe a degree or two warmer through Manteo. 91 at Edenton, 89 in Elizabeth City. Overnight tonight, the low down around 73, partly cloudy, not as muggy as it has been. I think this is the most significant line looking at the overnight, and then tomorrow, lower humidity as well. Temperatures around 85. It is going to be so nice with mostly sunny skies. Cannot wait. All right, after that, we do it again on Wednesday, mid-80s, comfortable with the lower humidity. Thursday, we get back up to 88, but the humidity is still low. By Friday, okay, the door opens up again. The humidity comes rushing back in. Temperatures in the mid-90s, and the humidity increasing. It's going to feel like it's over 100 once again for Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. We might see a few stray storms late in the weekend. All in all, a really, really good forecast for Hampton Roads. Do stay weather aware this afternoon in case we get a shower or storm in your area, but get ready for much more comfortable weather before another warm up as we head towards next weekend when it will be hot once again. Remember, you can always get the latest news, traffic, and weather on the go with the 13 News Now app. Scan the QR code on your screen to download the app now. It's free and on the App Store and Google Play. I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with us here at the Weather Desk. Again, we've got a crew of folks working behind the scenes, bringing it all together. And again, each day around 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday, we bring you about 30 minutes with a deeper dive into the top weather headlines from around Hampton Roads, across the region, around the country, and truly, as you saw today, around the world. Have a great day. Get ready for some nicer weather if you're here in Hampton Roads, but stay weather aware this afternoon, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.